Welcome to Backboard Banter on the boards with your hosts, Matt Middleton and Kevin Rayner, where the banter's as ferocious as those Brooklyn Nets trades, man. They made some crazy ones.
I mean, to think that we were here last Thursday, and then the next day Kyrie's like, I want out. 2 days later, he's gone. 10 hours ago, who knows, maybe 12 hours ago, KD gone. What a trade season. Brooklyn, what are you doing? But also, good job. Like, what a weird situation.
I feel like this trade deadline was like a lot smaller than it could have been because Kyrie asked out. Like because the fact that, the NBA is a closed environment, that these small little minor, ask outs or changes in the league can absolutely have massive ripple effects. And I think that's what happened, right? Like Kevin Durant became available, people stopped doing what they were doing. The Raptors stopped getting calls as heavily as they were because people wanted Kevin Durant. People wanted Kyrie Irving. And, that's unfortunately, I can be honest about this. Like they are better than Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam or OG Anunoby, whoever you want to have as the forward. Kevin
Man,
Durant's going to dwarf him.
man, we were so hyped to be the team that was just like holding all the cards, keeping the trade deadline hostage, feeling good as Toronto fans. And then all of a sudden, Brooklyn was like, get out the way. Here we go. Our cards are on the table. Unfortunately, nobody picked up the phone when they were like, hey, we got Ben Simmons available. But Kevin Durant, Kyrie, they've moved. We'll talk about it. We'll get into it. Lots to do today. Trade deadline is officially over. We had to wait, obviously, to make sure that we could talk about everything. But let's talk about our takes first. Let's go back to last week. Matt, I was so close. I wanted Thibault on the Kings. The Kings did basically nothing. Again, we'll get into that. But Thibault turns into a Blazer. An interesting pickup. We'll see how Dame feels about it. But I was this close, man. This close.
Man, I feel like Portland didn't really do much for this deadline. Like they didn't change the direction of their team at all. I think teams around them kind of got better. But yeah, at least you knew Thibault was going. He was not getting any minutes in for the Philadelphia 76ers, so it was time for him to leave. But at least you were better than me, man. Like I was 1-2 with the Lakers as opposed to 3-0. LeBron did break the record though, like I said. Too bad he did it in an L game. Like
Rough.
how can this man score 38 points in like three quarters and still they lose the game? Like, I guess it was just ISO ball, man.
I mean, I stayed up to watch it. Thankfully, West Coast blessing me over here in my mountain time. When he showed up in that black outfit with the chain, I
Oh,
was like, "Oh, he's going for it." And then he's on the court with the headband, and I'm like, Matt, you called it, bro. 36 easy. Then he has what 20 points in the first half. Had no problem. But yeah, it was an interesting situation to see him break it. Pretty awesome moment, to say the least.
dude, so it's so crazy that it's not a bigger story in the NBA. That it's kind of dwarfed by the trade deadline and all this kind of stuff. The fact that he broke a record that stood for as long as it did, and he's probably going to finish with over 40,000, I'd say 41, 42,000 points in his entire career. And the fact that he's averaged 30 points a game over the last 2 years of his career
Yeah.
just underscores the fact that those scoring titles that separate him and Michael Jordan mean absolutely nothing. He could have gone and scored and won all of those scoring titles if he wanted to. If he wanted to be the GOAT scorer, he could have been, right? Like he easily could have been. He didn't want it that bad. He just happened to take it because of how dominant he's been since he was 18 years old.
Yeah.
Like it's just wild, my friend.
Look, anybody who thinks it's not a big deal, I worked last night at the ski hill, so drove to the hill at 3 o'clock, drove home at 9 p.m. It's only a 15-20 minute drive. Both times, person on the radio is talking about how LeBron James is now the all-time leading scorer in the NBA. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I don't
man.
listen to the radio very often, but nobody in Calgary cares about basketball. I'm gonna leave it at that. All right, congratulations, LeBron James, you are a legend.
Oh man, he's the goat. He's just awesome. But I gotta also bring it back to the fact that Fred VanVleet did not get traded. Neither did Gary Trent Jr. So again, I'm like 50-50 there. And unfortunately, we did make trades. We did, trade for Jakob Pertl. But we'll get into that once we get into Raptors chat, man. Do you want to talk about the last week? Because we went 3-0. I don't know if it really convinced the front office to buy. I think that like that was a decision that they had already made. The fact that we went 3-0 really didn't have anything to do with it.
I mean, I still, it was the funniest to me, Jacko on Raptors tonight after the Spurs game. Raps are 10-7 in their last 17 games now. Yeah, that's what happens when you have a 3-0 week. You finally have a positive above 500 record. Like, it was a tough situation. We love getting our wins, and to talk about any of the wins specifically, Rockets win, who cares? They're not doing very well. Spurs win, 10-game losing streak. I don't need to talk about the Spurs, but the Grizzlies win. The biggest thing for me was the fact that we
Buddy,
pulled it out on the back of Scotty Barnes, man. I thought he was going to have a big fourth quarter. He basically put the team on his back. I'm pretty sure Siakam was dealing with foul trouble, so it was all Scotty at that point. He had 13 points of his 16. I didn't realize he only had 3 points before that, so that was kind of funny, but put the team on his back for a big comeback win against the Grizzlies team that, let's not think about the fact that they didn't have Ja or Steven Adams, but still,
Steven Adams.
big
Yeah.
W and big moment from Scotty. That's what I saw out of it specifically.
Honestly, it's great, but I've seen those moments from Scotty all season, right? Like he has had his flashes that are the reasons that we think that he's going to be a top 15 player in this league for a long time to come. It's he does have those nights and that ability, the when he's running down the court yelling, "I am him." Like, yeah, we know Scotty, you can be him.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I think like a lot of the fans wanted the trades to happen to move in a younger direction, right? Like we wanted to get rid of Fred VanVleet. We wanted to move a Siakam or an OG Anunoby to get, more in line with the Scotty Barnes timeline. But I think it underscores like we're not consistent enough because we don't have a set rotation with the amount of big guys that we have.
True.
They all kind of flop into that center position, right? Between Precious, between Koloko, between OG, between Siakam, between Barnes even, right? Like they all play some center minutes and to varying degrees of success versus varying degrees of opponents, right? And I think having Jakob Pertl now come back to our organization, I think he cost us a little bit too much, but coming back to our organization, he's going to give us that stability at that position and I think allow us to be a better team. But with 7 really tough games left out of our 26, we are going to have to pull some magic out of our hats to really, entrench ourselves in the play-in tournament and, make the playoffs. Because right now we're the first time in what, like 2 months that we're in the playoffs?
Probably.
Like, not great.
You've given me so many directions that I want to go from there, Matt. I love it. Like, there's so much going on. What I take about it the most is that we're not here week after week talking about, oh, the Raptors this, oh, the Raptors that. We got a little bit of positivity. We got a spark of hope. And yeah, it's Jakob Pertl, man. Fan favorite. A best tweet of the night was somebody pulling up his first game picture and being like, did a quick Photoshop of Jakob in a Raptors jersey. See if you like it. Like, fans are hyped, man. Fans are in a good place. We did something, right? You and I would be so frustrated if we did nothing, right? How often do the Raptors just do nothing? So, like, yeah, we probably did overpay a little, but I was hoping for some, better protect, top 6 protected on the pick. Would prefer to lottery protected. I don't know how it, conveys after that. But, you think it was just, let's throw in a couple extra seconds. At least it's not 2 firsts. But yeah, time will tell what Jakob will be for this team because he's probably going to sign an extension for sure. He definitely, I think, wants to be here. Him and Siakam are boys, so time will tell.
Yeah, from the same draft class, and like we were pulling up the stats on him, and he's the 16th ranked player efficiency at his position this year. When you talk about his draft class, he's one of the best players in terms of win share per 48, in terms of actual win share just total for his career and value over replacement player. Like he's a top 10 player in all of those and top 5 in the majority of those statistics. So he does have a ton of value that he brings to our roster. And again, like if you really dig deep into the roster, you notice that our defense is 12 points per possession better with Christian Koloko on the floor, a true NBA center.
Yeah.
Even though Christian Koloko's not, a top 30 center, let's say, or even like, even on the fringe there, he's still an NBA center. He's definitely clearly got the potential to develop into a top 15 center. But with Jakob Pertl, I think we get a top 15 center in this league, which is going to do wonders for our roster and maybe will, propel us to pulling that rabbit out of our hat and maybe making the 6th seed.
I mean,
like maybe
we're in the right conference to be able to make a push considering our situation because the East, the East trimmed out a little bit, got top heavy, but trimmed out a little bit, whereas the West got stacked. But yeah, I think this is the time to talk about the roster rotations and how this affects things. And like anybody who thinks we're gonna pay this much for Jakob Poeltl and not start him is absolutely insane, right? So at this point, you know that he is going to be starting, and if Siakam's not there beside him at the 4, you're also insane. So that rotation is pretty much locked up. So it comes to the next 3 now, whether it's OG, whether it's Scotty, where Fred and Gary sit in, right? You got these 4 guys now, kind of have to figure it out.
Well, I think that you're definitely starting Gary Trent and Fred Van Vliet. So I think Scotty or OG is the odd man out, and it's kind of nice right now that OG is hurt. Not that we want him to be hurt, but it's
Of
nice for
course.
the team to kind of at least start Scotty in that role, and then when he comes back, decide how it better affects our lineup, which one to come off the bench. But it gives us so much more depth now. Now we have an NBA center on our second unit as well. We've got a Christian Koloko and we've got a Jakob Poeltl. That means our defense doesn't have to change based on our player personnel. Hopefully we're not flying around as much on defense because we actually have a true anchor on each unit as opposed to a rotating anchor and a rotating cast of characters back there. So like I think that it makes us so much deeper because it knocks people back into a spot, a proper spot, right? Like even if you want to call Jakob Poeltl the 5th most important player on our team, and like that's probably generous. He's probably like the 6th or 7th most important player on our roster.
Yeah.
He's definitely a starter and knocks people into proper areas where they should be playing.
Yeah.
So that to me is a win. And again, we can pull it out. We're in the play-in right now, and honestly, us versus the Knicks, we do well against the Knicks.
Right.
So.
And we're gonna miss Kem Birch, obviously, like a fan guy, a good veteran
Canadian boy.
presence. We like our Canadian boys, exactly, but time to move on. And we rescued that man from Orlando when Orlando was in its like crazy dumpster fire situation. So we did our duty for him. But yeah, we're gonna love having Jakob. I'm so interested to see what happens, especially when OG comes back, because you're right, Gary probably needs to start if we do want to keep him, which at this point it looks like we definitely want to keep him at this point, and Fred also with their contracts. So it's going to come down to it. And we were discussing a little bit before this idea of letting OG start because of how important he is defensively on so many people, and letting Scotty and Precious just kind of run that bench. You look at our bench unit. Besides Flynn, who is our short king on that team, like the rest of that bench mob are tall boys, and you have Scotty who can facilitate that ball while being tall. You have Precious who can kind of flex in a lot of different situations. And yeah, getting Koloko a proper team to run with, like, it's all coming together for me, Matt. I was pretty ecstatic last night before I went to bed. Matt definitely saw that, and I'm a little bit more down to earth today, but I really like the potential of where this team goes forward.
Bro, when you texted me, we got him for nothing. I was like, no, we gave up. We gave up way too. Like, I mean, it's not the 2 firsts that they wanted, but again, it's those second round picks and a very very lightly protected first round pick. At least it's not this year.
Yeah.
Because I honestly think that what we signaled by not trading Fred, by not trading Gary, is that we want to keep them. That's a front office priority definitely for this summer, is going to, re-sign those guys. So next year we can run it back with this similar team. Depending on the rest of the season now, I'm sure Nick is on a very tight audition over these next 26 games because they've given him one of the major pieces that we were missing. Obviously, you and I wanted them to fix the guard spot, but they've seemed to believe that the center spot is really what's going to unlock their team. And, they showed that in the draft by going Koloko, and they are showing it again by targeting Jakob Poeltl. So we'll see how it all turns out, but I'm hoping that Nick can pull out the most out of this roster. I'm hoping that we can make a run for that 6th seed, and I'm hoping that next year we come back and we're a top 4 seed in the NBA. There's more player growth. Maybe we make a big move in the off season, but I think that the team was making the right call here. Kind of holding on, and I think they're gonna sign Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr. because Gary Trent and Fred have not had those massively crazy seasons where a team is going to come in and overpay. Whereas we own their bird rights, we can pay them more than anybody else. So
And if it does come together, we have a truly positive end to the season, which can happen with this right rotation, right? How do you not want to buy into what could have been, those first 7 games still? What a beautiful time to be a Raptors fan, right? Like, you take that, you take hopefully the last 20 games of the season, you forget about the middle, and you go into next season amped up. But the Nick Nurse comment, Matt, I'm so happy because right at the bottom here of my notes here, as my last transition point, I have a simple question, which was, if we don't turn it around in these 20 games, does Nurse get fired? And you already answered it for me, man. It's beautiful. Like, I'm all wrapped up here when it comes to the Raptors.
bro, he will get fired. I mean, we've got the Jazz, the Pistons, and the Magic this week. So like, let's hopefully push this win streak to 6.
Right?
Let's get close to the 500 mark, and hopefully, entrench ourselves further into that play-in. Because that would be just, what this team really needs if they're gonna spend those assets on a 27-year-old center who's entering free agency at the end of this year. Right? Like, he's going to now need to be signed. Like, we've got quite a lot of flux in our roster on key players.
There's still question marks that have to be dealt with, but at the end of the day, we're entering a honeymoon period. New players here. The hope is that honeymoon period provides W's and not just good feelings as well, but I'm excited for this week. I'm excited for these games. We'll see when Jakob starts playing. I still find it hilarious that the man, look, not hilarious for the man, but apparently at the beginning of February, he fully packed up his house. He was ready to go. And I don't know if he booked a hotel room or what, but after the Rabs game last night, he's still in Toronto. He spent the night.
Perfect.
Man knew something was going on. And like, I think Jakob will be really excited to be back, right? Like, this was the franchise that drafted him. He got to be a part of those years, that's those special years. Unfortunately, he didn't get to be a part of the finale of it, right? But to come back, to get to be a part of the next step as well, to hopefully become boys with the new kids on the block as well. Like, I got a lot of hopium going on right now, Matt. That's where my mind is.
Definitely a lot of hope, and it's nice because, like, after the season that we've had, I agree that we probably should have gone the opposite direction as opposed to buying, but in the short term, like, it kind of works out as long as we can keep Fred, as long as we can keep Gary. Like, because if we let them go for nothing, oh my God, I'm gonna be so upset about this. I'll be so upset, my friend.
We'll be in such a different place.
Oh, buddy. But
okay.
I'm going to have optimism. I'm going to have positivity. I'm going to put out the good vibes around the Raptors, man, because that's the only thing I can think of. Hopefully we make the play-in or the playoffs and maybe even round, I think we could take the Cavs. I think we could, take the Knicks. The Brooklyn Nets are definitely going to probably fall out. I mean, potentially, let's just talk about the Nets at this point, man. They're the
I was
team
about to say,
about.
It's transition time. Let's move into the rest of the league because there were so many moves. Like, I saw a really good joke that was like, second round picks going around college dorm rooms right now, basically, kind of situation. Like, they were everywhere. But yeah, the Brooklyn Nets.
Nothing.
That's the thing, right? They throw them out, going everywhere. But yeah, Brooklyn, man, from last week, Kyrie said, I left them in 4th place. Well, who knows where they're going to stay now because Kyrie's gone. KD's gone. They've got a plethora of, good players, right, to surround around Cam Thomas, all right? Can we quickly get Cam Thomas out of the way before we talk about this trade? 3 games in a row, 40-plus points. Like, the best part was the last game was against Phoenix. So Phoenix was like, you guys don't need Kevin Durant. Send him our way. You guys got Cam Thomas, right? Like, Brooklyn is not in a bad place. Like, they're still going to be competitive. They're just not contenders anymore.
I think that's the exact truth of the matter is they're going to kind of do what Utah did at the beginning of the season. I think that they have too many pieces to not be competitive, right? They've got a Mikal Bridges. They've got a Cam Johnson. They've got a Cam Thomas. They've got these other players, Nick Claxton, and a better group to be, horrible for the rest of the season. And I think that's what they want. Because at the end of the day, all of their picks aren't based on where they are. They're owed to Houston, right? So it doesn't behoove them to be bad. It behooves them to hope that the teams that gave them first-round picks are bad. And that's all that they can hope for. And I don't think that's going to be the case, right? Like, those 4 first-round picks from Phoenix, what are they? One's this year, and then
Oh, it's
2025, 27, 29,
yeah,
right?
23, 25, 27, 29, and then a swap in 28 as well.
20, right? But like in 2028, maybe Phoenix is worse than you, maybe with a 38-year-old Durant, but you still have a prime Devin Booker and a
Yeah.
prime DeAndre Ayton. Like that roster's going to be middling at worst. This year they're competing for a championship, so that's going to be a back half of the 2025. They're probably still hoping to be competing with
Yeah.
an older Durant, but like they're not going to be high end picks. And so, and that also makes it weird with the Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie coming back and only one first round pick in that Dallas deal. Like, they're not going to have a shot to be good with draft picks until
Yeah.
the turn of the decade. Like, it's going to be the 2030s before they can draft some real elite talent, unless they can turn their second round picks into high end first picks.
But the team is
Like,
fine. I think people are really underestimating what letting Mikal Bridges be a star on a roster will be. We watched him shred the Raptors, like I don't know, a couple weeks ago. When Booker was
yeah,
out and post, he's good. I think that
we're
you
not
look at
great,
the.
man.
Yeah, relax. But I think that you look at the players on this team and the capabilities. They have light versions. They have Mikal Bridges as a light Kevin Durant, while being a better
Still
defender.
very light
Very
Kevin
light offense,
Durant.
but in terms of like his defensive capabilities, and if he
He's
wants,
probably,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
When he catches fire from shooting, he can shoot the ball, right? You think about
yeah.
Dinwiddie, very light Kyrie Irving, right? Dorian
He's
Finney-Smith,
closer than Mikal is.
definitely closer, but Dorian Finney-Smith, great role player. Cam Thomas is proving that he can be a starter and actually put in points. Like Brooklyn
Yeah.
has a decent team. Like I don't think they're gonna fall out of the playoff race. They might fall into the play-in, but they're gonna be a top 10 team. By May at this point. So I think that they did a good job considering that their two stars said I want out, and they made it happen. Like you have to shout out, the new owner of the Suns for at least getting this involved with Kevin Durant, right? Like Brooklyn was, they had an opportunity to be taken advantage of, and Brooklyn really didn't let that happen. KD went where he wanted to go, and they got relatively good assets back for it.
Relatively good. I think that's the key, man. Because yeah, they're still they're the seventh overall team in the NBA this moment, but I think when May rolls around, they're going to be more likely to be 15, 16. I think they're going to be able to hold water. I think that they're going to be defensively reliable enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be whether they can score the ball. Because, Nick Claxton, Mikal Bridges, like Dorian Finney-Smith, like that's a good defensive core right there. And then you throw in Cam Thomas's offense,
40 points a night.
maybe, yeah, 40 points a night, man.
40 points a night?
If he averages 40 points for the rest of the season, I'll give you $500,000.
Look,
I'll give
Cam
you
Thomas,
everything that I own.
best interview ever was Cam Thomas believing last year, straight up saying, deadpan face, yeah, I'm a better offensive threat than Kevin Durant was at my age, for sure. Straight face. So, hey, the man has confidence coming out of absolutely every part of his body. Whether he can keep that up, we'll see.
Man, confidence or delusion. Kevin Durant averaged 30 points a game at your age in the NBA. Like, I understand you just had 3 games of 40 points, but like, come on, man. Like, let's get real here.
Man is absolutely riding. Okay. Anything else about Brooklyn you want to discuss, or should we talk about those two stars and where they ended up?
No, man. I mean, I guess we can talk about the fact that like I don't love Kyrie Irving with the Mavs. Like, I don't know how you're feeling about it, but I think that it was a great way to like push Luka out the door. Like they messed up the Kristaps Porzingis trade, right? Like getting Kristaps, they gave up quite a few assets. Those assets never panned out. They didn't sign Jalen Brunson early, and then he commanded double what they would have been willing to pay him. They balked at a 3-year, $50 million contract, and he ends up getting 115 this summer. Like, so they messed that up. And now they trade Dorian Finney-Smith, who's a good defensive wing that goes next to Luka. He fits next to Luka as a player who's a catch and three kind of player, who's a 3-and-D kind of guy. And Spencer Dinwiddie, who's like gives you like 65% of what Kyrie Irving gives you.
It's a great role player guard for sure.
Yeah, but
It's
They
tough.
did win their first game with Irving and without Luka in the lineup, and I don't know if they would have been able to do that with Dinwiddie and Finney Smith. But
Man,
man, I don't love it
I'm really
personally.
50-50 on the trade. I'm really 50-50 on the trade because on the one hand, I completely agree with you. I completely feel absolutely everything you're feeling. And then the other side of the coin, I go, Kyrie is such a great player beside him, right? He's proved how good he can be beside LeBron. And if anyone is like LeBron, right? And you think about
Defense
Jason
though,
Kidd. Let me talk about positive things, then we'll talk about the defense after, okay? Let me talk about positive things. Like, Jason Kidd knows how to utilize Kyrie, right? Like, I think that obviously it's hilarious that Cuban has another reclamation project added to the roster to try to work with Luca. Like, man, can we just get Luca somebody legit who knows what they're doing and isn't a problem, right? And
yeah.
now to talk about the negatives, right? Because like I think he's going to be super good, super positive. I think that in terms of his play, he'll be a great fit with Luca, and especially when Luca is able to sit down, right? How many times have you watched a Mavs game where they're doing well and then Luca sits on the bench and then they're down by 14? At least
Bro,
if Kyrie's there, they might only be down by 6, right? Like that's the hope. But in terms of the negatives, yeah, there's a lot of weird situations. Kyrie's in Texas. Let's not even think about how crazy that might go. At least the state is really large and flat for him, so he doesn't have to see any, borders around it. Like, I don't know, man. Kyrie's a problem child, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
like in 2 months or 3 months, like you don't think Kyrie Irving's like pissed because they don't want to sign him to a 4-year extension? Because
Oh
like if I'm
man,
the Mavs, he hasn't done anything to prove to me that he deserves a 4-year extension. I think that's the look. Kyrie Irving might be a really good person deep down. He does participate in philanthropy and giving back to community, but from my perspective and from the perspective of the way he treats NBA teams,
yeah,
is that he is very self-centered when it comes to his money and his role, and doesn't care that you're paying him $40 million plus to be there.
yeah,
He will leave whenever he wants to leave, and he will do whatever he wants to do. And that is his prerogative and his right. But as an NBA team, you're only worth $20 million, even if your skills indicate 40 million, because you lack every other intangible asset that I look for when I'm looking at players. Right? I
yeah.
want them to be committed. I want them to be quality human beings who don't make a disturbance. I want them to be, probably not in the media spotlight a ton for controversial things. I want them to be good teammates. Like, he's none of those things. I want them to be good leaders.
At this
That
point,
Boston Celtics team, man, think about it.
yeah.
They were better without him. They lost him for nothing, and it didn't affect their franchise
I mean,
at all.
at this point, if you're a betting man and you're trying to bet money on Kyrie, you may as well put money down that he's going to be on the Phoenix Suns in 6 months' times, right? Going back with Kevin Durant, like this is the thing, right? Like I don't know what else we talk about Kyrie. Like you have to let the ball play. You have to let the game speak for itself. Otherwise, you're just going to see all the controversy of Kyrie. So we'll see if they could do it, right? Because like Luca proved that he can pull a team with a Jalen Brunson-esque talent pretty dang far, and you put Kyrie beside that, a true all-star, and anything's possible. But again, this is the West. The West is stacked, right? Phoenix is it Phoenix Suns time? Do we talk about Kevin Durant and this squad over here? Because yes, they traded so much depth, but all people can think about and look about is this new starting lineup and how dangerous it is going to be offensively with Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and DeAndre Ayton. Those are 4 terrifying names when lined up together.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't think that they have a clear favorite in the Western Conference. I don't think like they're the number
No.
one favorite. I think Denver's still just as good as them. I think Chris Paul's slowed down quite substantially, and so having Kevin Durant and Devin Booker is awesome. But like you just mentioned, their depth is completely gone. Who are they going to get to guard the best players on the other team on a nightly basis now? Because Kevin Durant can do it, but he's proved that he breaks down.
Yeah,
It's
you can't do it
proven
night
that
in,
he
night
does
out.
night out, and he
Yeah.
can't do it in the playoffs. And Devin Booker's not a great defender; he's league average at best. Yeah, they like it's going to be the same issue with Dallas, right? Like you can score 140 points, but if you let in 150, like what are we talking about here?
No,
Like you're gonna lose.
it's going to be a tough situation. I think that both of the teams have gotten better and they've had to be. It's why the conversation leading up to this deadline was, is OG Anunoby actually going to get picked up? Because everyone needs somebody to guard somebody in the West now, right? And so
Yeah.
Phoenix, yeah, they're going to put up numbers, but their defense has taken an absolutely massive step back. You traded the runner-up to Defensive Player of the Year. That can't be forgotten about at this point in time,
Underestimated,
right?
yeah.
It's Kevin Durant. Yes, but at the same time, there are two sides to a basketball game: offense and defense. So Phoenix has a lot to do, but you got to say, Matt Ishbia, the new guy who bought that team, it just went through. This guy is making plays right away. So hey,
Yo, man, he's trying. He's trying to get that team to where they need to go. But I just don't see it being the best decision for that franchise moving forward. It probably is the only way that they could capitalize on that little bit of window that they had left, though. So at the end of the day, if they win a championship, it's like us trading Jonas Valanciunas. It's totally worth it at the end of the day. And I know I just kind of compared Kevin Durant and Mikal Bridges to Jonas Valanciunas, but hey, man, it's a weird time in the NBA, and we'll see, because Kevin Durant's pretty finicky. Like, maybe he asks out and he wants to go back to Golden State or something. Like, I don't know.
Well, but this is why I was saying Kyrie could be in, joining that team in the summer. CP3 just ain't doing it. Let's just move along. Look, they doubled their luxury tax to add Kevin Durant to that team. Okay, so Phoenix, it looks like they may be doing a lot. And you talk about the window reopening. Yeah, a lot of people would have said that last year their window closed. Well, Kevin Durant adds you a little bit of extra space on that window for sure. So Phoenix is definitely back.
Absolutely.
Whether or not they're here to stay, that's the question.
Yeah. Man, and talk about like a little bit of window opening. Do you think the Lakers cracked their window? Do you think they opened it for a possibility this year?
They're a better team after this trade deadline.
Question.
Yeah.
D'Angelo Russell or Russell Westbrook? Who's a better player?
All-time Russell Westbrook. But
no,
right now, D'Angelo Russell. Right now.
I can make the argument for the opposite.
That's what's
hilarious. I can easily make the opposite for the Minnesota is a losing team when D'Angelo Russell is on the court. They're a winning team without him. Russell Westbrook's contributed to the team actually turning it around. Yes, at the beginning of the year and last year, he did not accept his role and he was pretty bad. But he's pretty good, man. He's been putting up decent stats, good numbers. I love that they got Vanderbilt. I think that was awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that only having to give up, a protected top 4 first round pick, and who else to give up? Toscano Anderson and who else? Westbrook, that, and a couple seconds.
Yeah,
3
exactly.
seconds.
It wasn't too much. But your comment about D'Lo though, for me, I think the biggest thing is I agree with you, but I think his role completely changes coming to the Lakers, right? And I think he's shooting some of the best, 3-point percentage of his career at this point, and coming in and asking to do something different. I think he'll accept that role. I think he really will at this point. I think he's down to just shoot threes and not have to ball handle as much. But again, I'm talking about somebody who needs the ball in their hands, so maybe I am wrong in that statement, but I think the Lakers got better. I really do. I think a lot of their mini trades that they made here and there did make them better. Now, the Thomas Bryant trade, I don't know. This is Ivica Zubac all over again. I'm going to make this statement.
Mo Bamba, basically.
Oh, my God.
They bring Mo Bamba in for what they sent out.
But still, I think about some of these trades, and I'm like, are you guys just trying to give LeBron nice things because he's the scoring champion now? We don't need to be nice to the Lakers. Rob Pelinka somehow got a very casual W in this trade season, honestly. So, I don't
meanwhile,
know.
the Bucks out here spending 5 second round picks on Jay Crowder, who hasn't played all year and was bad in the playoffs last year. What are we doing? Some teams absolutely got such great value, and some teams got horrible value. Think about the Clippers getting Eric Gordon back with 3 second round picks for Luke Kennard, John Wall, and a protected first.
And man, poor John Wall just getting moved around to more teams. Danny Green is with him now, so at least the two of them can can hang out and chat. But yeah, outside of those trades, there's just tons of little things here and there. A lot of small moves, a lot of teams in the West, adding a little bit here and there, knowing that they need to, considering the state of it. But it was a pretty fun deadline day. I mean, at least for me, who was able to stay awake, I got to see the cool blockbusters, and then I woke up to just just trades left and right today. So I mean, I enjoyed it. Was it a trade deadline that had tons of crazy things? I think it's at the moment. I think it's an overrated deadline. I think you're right with that statement, Matt. Earlier before we started recording, I think that people are way hyped up right now, and we'll come back down to earth in a little bit of time.
Because two top 15 caliber players theoretically got traded, right? So people are all, excited about that. But at the end of the day, like, Kyrie Irving, to me, because of his issues, is not a top 15 player in the NBA. Because I would take a lesser player like a Tyrese Halliburton, like a Darius Garland, like a LaMelo Ball, who are not as talented, not as, finished of products, can't do what Kyrie can do, but at least they're reliable, man. At least I know that they're going to show up to work every day and they're not going to, start something with a teammate because they read something on Twitter and they feel a certain way today. Like, and that to me, like, is what the biggest issue is with Kyrie Irving. He's going to blow that Dallas team up. I guarantee you, man. And Luka's like going to not be able to do anything about it, and then he's going to ask for a trade. So it's the beginning of the end of Luka in Dallas. Maybe we can plan for it and trade for Luka in like 5 years. That'd be great.
For a second there, I thought I needed to get you a paper bag. You were like breathing really heavily. I was like worried for you for a second there because I know this man loves Luka, right? Like, like imagine. Yo, you think the Giannis sweepstakes were a big deal for Matt over here? If Luka was suddenly available and the Raptors were going to go for him, this guy would sell his unborn child for Luka at this point.
I don't know about that.
I'm just okay, so let's move along here. Let's talk about some other players. Like, I think I have to talk about Golden State now a little bit. We brought them up recently, but outside of just the trades, there is the Steph Curry injury that we have to talk about. The man tore. I'm not exactly sure what he tore in his leg, but he's gonna be out for a few weeks. So Golden State's in a tough place.
Is that his third injury this year?
I think so, considering the fragility over the past few years. We talk about small players, we talk about small point guards and how their careers as they get older starts to really crumble. Tough situation for Golden State, because if Curry's not available, man, no thank you.
I find it so funny because everybody sees LeBron at 38 years old and they're like, yeah, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, all these guys are going to make it to 38 and be this impactful. And I think typically if you look at the NBA, after 35, 36, guys really don't, especially even at that elite tier, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, yes, he won championships in his later years, but he was playing with Magic Johnson, who was arguably a top 2 player of his era at the time. And so, and LeBron, he's still a top 10 player, and Anthony Davis is just letting him down so hard. But I don't think that Steph Curry is going to be like this for the rest of his career. I think that he's already showed that he's more injury prone. Kevin Durant's already shown that they're more injury prone. I know that they did they got Gary Payton II and they traded, Wiseman, but it's not good what they did, man. I don't love what Golden State did this year.
They got in bed with a bunch of those second round picks so they could get Gary Payton back. I mean, maybe he'll be a good locker room presence for them. Getting rid of Wiseman, I think, considering they weren't using him, is the right play at this point in time. And Wiseman gets to go to Detroit, gets to join the Reclamation Project. They're building up a brand new Mustang out of really old parts down in Detroit. But yeah, Golden State, man, nothing more to say besides, hopefully Andrew Wiggins can keep them afloat at this point. And Klay Thompson has been playing well, I guess. So that's their hope. But yeah, sad.
And it's just not great for them. It was really not great. So it is what it is. I mean, there was quite a few other deals, that we could talk about, but at the end of the day, we talked about the big ones. Do you want to talk about, the streaks that are going on? Do you want to talk about the Super Bowl at all? Where is your head at?
Before we move on, we have to talk about the most important player that got moved at this deadline, okay? He's now a Boston Celtic. I hate that he's a Boston Celtic, okay? My guy, Mike Muscala, the legend himself, gets moved. Hey, look, he was worth Justin Jackson and 2 second-round picks, all right? I can't
Mike
not talk
Muscala,
about
baby.
I can't not talk about my boy Mike Muscala. 2K legend for me over here, but
Yeah.
yeah, really not not much more to say. We can talk about the Bucks on an 8-game win streak. We could talk about the Pelicans turning their season around after being on a ridiculous losing streak, but honestly, man, I think we've done a pretty good job here.
Yeah, man. I mean, the Spurs are pretty garbage. The Grizzlies have been 2-8, man. They have not been good lately. So, but I would like to, maybe talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. It's a big game this weekend, man. I think it's probably going to be one of the better Super Bowls that we've had over the last decade. How are
Ooh.
you feeling about it?
I mean, I'm like kind of asleep on it because I realized that a week just like flew by. All of a sudden, I've been so busy, and I'm like, oh, it's the Super Bowl this weekend, and I'm getting really amped up for it out of a sudden. So now I'm over here and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've pulled a pretty good job so far with my takes. Is Mahomes going to be too injured? Will he be able to get them across the line? And on the other side, we've got this Eagles team, right? This team that I think slowly crept their way into the conversation over the last few years. And I have a distinct memory of being a fan of this Eagles team when they were coming out of nowhere. So I want to believe in them. But at the end of the day, Matt knows I just want good football. I'm here for success for the fans. I want the NFL to end with a banger. And thankfully, Patrick Mahomes is in it, right? He is the undisputed next GOAT of QBs, probably at this point. And hopefully, he'll be able to pull it out. But I'm expecting a good game on Sunday.
Bro, I can't believe I just left you to do football chat by yourself. I'm really sorry about that. But
Man.
actually though, I think it's going to be a great game. I think that, yeah, we got Patrick Mahomes in it and the Kansas City Chiefs, who are like, 5 straight years of dominant football. Like, to make the AFC Championship game as your worst season as an NFL starter, I
Crazy.
think it's just, yeah, it's insanity. And I think Jalen Hurts has had a fabulous season. I think the Eagles team, because they haven't played anybody, are kind of being slightly disrespected by the media. I think that their team is that good on defense. Like, I really think, and I think on offense they have a proper identity. They've got a big play threat in AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. I think that it's going to be a very, very close game, and I am so on the fence about this, man. I've been feeling like the Eagles are going to win it for a really, for a lot of like heady reasons, like putting all my logic into it.
Yeah.
But then for some reason, my heart is just telling me the Kansas City Chiefs. I think Patrick Mahomes is him, man. Like, that one-legged performance 2 weeks ago was just unbelievable. And I feel like he's got it locked in, man. I feel like, he's been there, he's done that. But hey, there's a guy on Twitter who put out like the 10 Super Bowl champions from like 2016 to 2026.
Okay.
And he's been perfect. He's hit on 100% of them
Ooh.
so far, and he does have the Eagles winning this Super Bowl this year. So maybe, right, maybe the Eagles do win.
I mean, you can't always be perfect, but I love when predictions just like ride that line of being that close. I was reading an article from 2016 a couple days ago of like 2023 NBA All-Stars, and you would be amazed at like how 80% of them were absolutely correct. So, hey, man, the guy is on a trend. Maybe he'll keep it going.
Is he a
Personally,
time traveler?
man, anything's possible. You think about this day and age and how people are able to make so much money out of nowhere. Like, they've got to know what's going to go on in the future, right? Anyways, I'm getting
Sometimes.
sidetracked here. I'm getting sidetracked. But yeah, I'm Team Eagles all the way because I want to see them, kind of pull that season all together, kind of come out of nowhere and be like, hey guys, we did it. But yeah, it's Patrick Mahomes, man. The guy is unreal. If the Eagles are gonna win, if Patrick has to lose, I expect to see greatness from the man, irregardless, you know?
Oh, he's definitely going to have a great game. I think that the Eagles are going to be able to get after him pretty easily. Well, not easily, but they'll get after him. And I think the injury is going to make him a little bit slower and a little bit less elusive than he normally is.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to lead to a little bit more, hits, a little bit more pressure, a little bit more ability to sack him. And so that's going to really, I think, hold their offense back. That's the biggest worry for me because like if we're just gonna kind of slide into our predictions here, like you said, you might be Team Eagles, but I think I'm Team Chiefs. Um, every logical bone in my body is telling me that it's gonna be the Eagles, man. Like I'm serious. I don't know what it is. I feel like they've got the better defense, they've got the better offensive line, they've got the better defensive backs, wide receivers, pass catching group, like everything, and they have technically a guy who was a top 3 quarterback this year.
True, yeah.
It's hard to argue against Jalen Hurts being a top 3 quarterback this year. So yeah, you have the number 1 quarterback for sure, but your roster everywhere else isn't as good, and he's hurt. So how much can he pull out? I'm thinking it's gonna be just by the skin of his teeth,
Hey man,
just enough.
when you think about the GOAT debate, you think about what it takes to be that good at your craft. Well, Patrick Mahomes is that good, and so when you have somebody who is that capable in the driver's seat in the most important role in your sport, why can you not believe in him, right? So that's why people are going to believe in this team. That's why the Chiefs are here. Let's be honest here, right? You take out Patrick Mahomes, and the last 5 years are a completely different story for this franchise. Either way, Super Bowl
Absolutely.
Sunday, man, it's here. We're getting excited. The whole world is ready to tune in. North America, America themselves are ready to sit on that couch, bring out the big tray of nachos, get some chicken wings, pizza, whatever it takes. It's gonna be a good Sunday.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, it's gonna be. It always is a good Sunday, man. But oh, what a crazy, crazy Thursday with this deadline and the Super Bowl coming up. Just too much to talk about, really.
It's been a time. It's been crazy. I'm gonna be very unsurprised when we push stop on this record and then suddenly there's a new trade out of the NBA that just wasn't finalized in time because that's how it works for us. But yeah, man, Team Eagles over here for my prediction. Team Chiefs over there for you. Anything else this week, my friend?
No, man, I think you're good to wrap us up.
Perfect. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Board Sports. Like, subscribe, give us that thumbs up, and check out theboardsports.net for new episodes and blog posts.
And we'll talk to you next time.